What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live, powered by BetUS, here on a Thursday. Today, we're going to talk about who the Blazers' long-term power forward is. We got an article from our friends at Rip City Project, Eric, and they got 3 candidates for the Blazers' next long-term power forward. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about a Jeremy Grant trade idea that neither of us have seen yet. We've been doing this on previous streams. It's a lot of fun just to react to random trade ideas on air. We're also going to talk about Nasir Little getting cut and his $22 million contract being stretched over over 7 years. That's $3.1 million in dead money a year for the Phoenix Suns as they cut Nasir Little. Man, has he fallen from grace. Will he get picked up by a team? We're going to talk about that. And also, there's rumors about Jeff Bezos buying the Celtics, and we're going to tie that into the Blazers' ownership, or, I don't know, lack of ownership situation, whatever you want to call it, right? Do you want Jeff Bezos to buy the Blazers instead? We're going to ask you guys that question. But first, Eric, how is your Thursday treating you?
Oh, it's all right. Lost my rep game, but other than that, I'm good. How are you, Tori?
I'm good. I'm good. Just happy to sit down for another stream, man.
Don't want to talk too much about your basketball, but heard you were on fire from 3 today.
Yeah, I broke out of a slump. I've been in a shooting slump last two weeks. First half, I literally got a wide open catch and shoot 3 airball. And you know what? Sometimes you just got to miss confidently. Sometimes you just got to say F it, right? And keep that confidence, right? So second half, hit five in a row, you know, it was pretty nice. Like last 2 months, I've had like probably 6 or 7 times where I've hit 5 threes in a row. I can never get the 6th one. Can always, can get 5. Happened a lot lately. I've had some insane shooting stretches lately. Can't get 6. Can't get 6.
Okay, but was the 6th one like an insane heat check one, or was it?
It was a deep. It was definitely an NBA 3, and it was in and out.
Oh, okay.
I just start. So I make a couple. I get confident. I start stretching it out to like, we play high school 3-point line, but I start stretching it out to like NBA 3, hit 1 or 2. Then I'll try something off the dribble. Like, yeah. So it was a good run to like actually break out my shooting slump because the last 2 weeks I'd just been awful, missing everything short. So. It was a good night of basketball, man. It was enjoyable.
Good. How's chat? How's everyone doing? Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for tuning in.
Yep, appreciate you guys. Let me know how your week's been in the live chat. We always like reading that off. And we'll try and save some time for questions at the end. Probably going to go an hour, maybe a little under an hour tonight. And then as we get closer to the season, we'll start stretching these shows longer again. I've kind of liked the short jam-packed episodes, though, Eric. It's been, heavy hitting. Just like the news that Scott Servais got fired today. The Mariners version of Stotts got fired today. Although I didn't hate him like I hated Stotts, I don't know. I was growing tired of Servais, but man, he was there 9 years, only made 1 playoff appearance. That was basically like Terry Stotts, man. Like there for how many years and never accomplished anything. 1 Western Conference Finals appearance and didn't win a game. Yeah, it was. At least we freaking did something.
Tori, did you know he is one of only 2 coaches in Mariners history to take the team to the playoffs, though?
Well, listen, I mean,
Isn't
just
that
because,
crazy?
yeah, just because it's a low bar to clear, That's the
They've
thing
been
is
around
some
almost
fans
50
were
years.
like, you guys are going to see the next manager is going to suck, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, all stuff that I read about Stotts, and it was kind of hilarious to read it, like, about Servais, like, nobody would have done better, blah, blah, blah. Like, man, it was time for a change. His voice grew thin. Anytime you're a head coach for 9 years, you better at least, like, make it to 1 finals or World Series or something. That's my opinion. Super Bowl or something. Like, you got to make it to the big game. If you lose a big game, okay, but you at least got to make it there if you're a coach for 9 seasons. Because that's a long time.
Yeah, I think you just... I don't necessarily think you have to make it, but if you get fired, you can't say you didn't have enough time to like do anything. They
Yeah.
have plenty of time. Do
So
you want Depoto to go too, or do you?
I'm kind of at that point, but also it's like, who's he supposed to get given that the ownership sucks? I mean, it's the ownership's cheap up there in Seattle, you know. So I don't know. Like some of his comments though were awful. Like I'm ready to see him go, but I'm not super confident that they'll replace him with somebody better at this point because he can find pitching.
Right. Speaking of cheap owners, the Blazers.
Yeah. Segue. Set it up. A little meatball down the middle of the plate for Eric Brandt. Crushes it to left field. Alrighty.
Yeah. So Jeff Bezos is apparently interested in buying the Celtics. The price tag is expected to be at least $6 million for the Celtics, which is crazy. But yeah, I don't think he would be interested in buying the Blazers, but I don't know why more like rich people don't buy sports teams, because even if you don't care about them, like the return on investment, just with the value of franchises, we've seen just it's like almost a surefire way to make a lot of money on your investment if you eventually sell. So, I think the only thing I can say about the Celtics situation compared to the Blazers is looking at some of the numbers and everything, even though the Celtics should obviously command a ton more than the Blazers. I think when you look back, we already talked about this, but Phil Knight's offer of a little over $2 billion was a lowball offer, and it looks like he didn't up his offer at all after that. So if he was really interested in buying the Blazers, I think it's going to take a lot more than just a little over $2 million to do so.
Give me that Jeff Bezos money.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know, like there's a whole thing like every billionaire sucks. That's why they're billionaires, right? And it's not that I don't subscribe to that, but for my sports team, man, like I would be ecstatic if Bezos bought the Blazers or somebody just with money where it's like, oh yeah, I'll pay luxury tax. Like I make an insane amount of money. That's just the reality of the business is these are multi-billion dollar corporations, essentially, entertainment corporations. And listen, the more competitive ones spend, right? Like I'd be doing backflips if he bought the freaking Mariners because our payroll would go up by 3 times, right? So just the reality of the business.
Seattle, right? So
yeah, exactly. So maybe he wants some Northwest teams. I don't know, but it's just it sucks because like seeing that rumor, it's like, man, can Jody just sell the team? And then if she sells the team, like, could that happen to us? Like, could we just get somebody, our Matt Ishbia, just somebody with just deep pockets that we don't even have to have the conversations about luxury tax or money or this or that, or worry about selling second-round picks for cash to line her pockets? Like, that's all I want, man. And that the reality is you're only getting that with the richest of the rich, unfortunately. So seeing a rumor like that just makes me wish it was the Blazers. Now listen. There's maybe a billionaire out there or two that I just outright would not want as the owner of this team, right? Maybe an owner of a certain social media platform, but beyond that, give me an owner that doesn't need to pad his pockets because his pockets are so deep they're through the earth, man. Like, just give me a Bezos. Give me something like that. I don't even care. I will be shameless about it. Just give me a billionaire. Give me somebody with cash to own this team.
Well, it's so weird because, like, if you and I were in Bezos' position, I think we'd both try to own every...
dude, if I had Bezos money, I would make Jody an offer she couldn't refuse.
Right, and you wouldn't care, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different world. Like, why you... Okay, question. What do you have all that money for? You can't take it with you, like...
Right, and...
I don't understand.
Like I said, if you don't end up wanting it or whatever, like, there hasn't been a single, at least in the major sports, that a franchise that sold for less than was initially bought for. So, like it's like almost guaranteed more money. So like it's just a good business decision in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, we'll see if he buys the Celtics. I mean, as if the Celtics need any more right now, Eric.
Well, their current owner, what's his name, Grishbeck or something like that. Um, he's seeing what this new CBA is going to do to a team like the Celtics if they want to keep everyone together. And it's going to cost a crap load of money. And now they're, probably making a lot of money too. So I don't know if it necessarily is going to mean they like lose money just in terms of like their revenue for a season or whatever. But um, yeah, I don't get why any rich person wouldn't want to have an investment that just booms so much.
Yeah, 1000%. So we'll see what happens with that. Um,
And Taylor's saying, what's the point of Jody having to sell the team in Paul's will, but giving no time frame? Um, it's a little complicated. It's not necessarily that she has to sell the team in the will. It's that they need the money from the sale to pay off like his estate or whatever, some of the things in the estate. Um, so I don't know. It just gets complicated with how they can buy time by prolonging that need, I guess, if they're getting money elsewhere for the estate. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think eventually she will have to do it. But yeah, I think she can hold off for a while.
yep. All right, let's move on to, man, this is sad.
Crazy.
This is sad. But also, man, this is just gonna get paid to do nothing if he wants to. So Nasir Little gets cut by the Phoenix Suns, right? You remember when the Blazers offered him that what was it, a 5-year contract at like $6.5 million a year?
It was 428, I think, was his extension.
Oh yeah, because it was signed in a year in advance. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
428. So when he signed that, we were like, this is a bargain. This is a great contract. Like, we were sitting here just happy, like, man, this is a great value. Eric,
Yeah.
2 years later, a team would rather have $3.1 million of dead money over the next 7 years than Nasir Little on the roster making $6 million to $7 million a year. That's crazy. How his, like, just kind of the narrative and just that ended up with him getting cut 2 years or 1 year into that contract. It's just so completely crazy to me.
Well, I think I saw somewhere where these cutting these two players over the next year or two saves Phoenix like 40 million in tax payments or something. So when you think of it that way, it might not be as bad. But yeah, I did bring up the question like why Nas would sign that contract. It could have just been he was worried about his health. We know that's been an issue for him his whole career. He hasn't seemed to be healthy long enough to get any sort of consistency going. And yeah, so part of me wonders if Nas didn't really believe in himself that much and just took the money. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, health played a factor. Ultimately, like, he just wasn't that good. I was one of the guys 2 years ago, 2 off seasons ago, that was like pumping the brakes on him being the future starting small forward of the Portland Trailblazers. I took
Unless you're being him.
What'd you say?
You're pumping the brakes on Nas being him.
Yeah, if you want to phrase it that way. And I took a lot of heat for that. I took a ton of heat for that. And it was never necessarily like not believing that Nas could get there. It's just like, man, he's still not there yet. And it's just tough to take steps in this league from a bench player that's like inconsistently productive to like a consistent starter. Like, that's quite a step. And that was kind of like my problem 2 off seasons ago, was like there was just a ton of hype around him at a time where it was like you look at his whole body of work and he was just never consistent, and people would hype him up as a future starting small forward with like sample sizes when he played well, right? And say like, look at this month, he shot 40%, like when he finally got to play, or this or that, or blah blah blah, like when the conditions were just right, and when he played over 25 minutes and this and that. And my whole thing was like, if you're a good starter, you're a good starter. You don't need everything to be tinkered to fit you exactly how you need it to be, right? Like, so that was kind of my issue, was he's just inconsistent. Like, he just has never become consistent enough. And despite a year, like he had a year he shot 37% from 3, it was tough to trust him like consistently shooting that percentage for me. It was just tough.
Yeah. He had some really good months, some really bad months.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just like the hype kind of surpassed him a little bit, where it's just 2 years ago we were looking at, a lot of people were looking at him as he's the future starting small forward of this team, and now it's like, man, is he even going to be on an NBA team next year?
Yeah, well, part of that was those were based on Dame being kind of hyped about him and pumping him up a little bit, and so that's, people got excited that Dame was speaking so highly of him.
Dame would hype up Keldon Blevins. Like, Dame will hype up anyone he's teammates with, man. Like, he's that type of teammate.
It's just it just seemed like Dame really had a lot of confidence in him. Similar, we talked on that same stream, I know the one you're referring to, about Anthony Simons, and Dame was hyping up Ant as well, and has been since then, as his little protege or whatever, Inferno. It's just, it was tough because Nas, he does have, I think he has a skill set that if he could ever become a consistent shooter, that he could be useful in the NBA. It's just, he just hasn't been able to put it together at all, and sometimes it happens.
The defense just never became good enough. His defense never became good enough. On the ball, he'd have moments, but he wasn't like consistently good on the ball, and then off the ball, he was a mess, and we ranted about it. Like, he just made too many mistakes, and that was the biggest disappointment for me, is like when we drafted him, it's like, oh, you got an athlete, has some offensive upside, but should be like a lockdown defender, a key defensive piece back at a time when we like needed good young defenders with offensive upside. That's why we were so hyped on our first stream ever when we drafted him. Our first stream ever was a 2019 draft. But the defense just never became good enough, and it's like he wasn't good enough to consistently guard the best player, and off the ball just too many mistakes, and then the shot, like, he's shooting 33% from 3 in his career. And he needs to be a shooter, because offensively, Eric, he's too stiff.
Yeah.
He's just a little too stiff. It's kind of like Keon in a way. Keon Johnson was like athletic and could have moments, playing Summer League, would look good, right? But like at the NBA level, just was a little too stiff. Just wasn't a fluid enough athlete. He could jump out of the gym, but athleticism is more than just being able to jump out of the gym. Like, there's a fluidity aspect to it when you're trying to attack off the dribble. There's what they call functional athleticism. And Nas's athleticism just, to me, wasn't functional enough. If he got a open lane, yes, he could rise up and dunk on someone, but that's different than, being able to, shift your weight back and forth, be shifty with your dribble and shift a defender and then attack the gap you create, take a bump, and then explode into a secondary help defender and finish, right? Like, it's that type of stuff that elite players will consistently do. But with Nas, yeah, maybe you have a moment here or there, but it's just, he just wasn't good enough creating off the dribble, and he wasn't good enough defensively. So it's like he became too reliant upon that three-point shot when he just wasn't a good enough shooter. So he just wasn't good enough at any one thing, and wasn't well-rounded enough to be one of those well-rounded guys either.
So what I'm hearing from you, Tori, is that you want the Blazers to sign him.
Yeah, so
now that he's a free agent, right?
Eric. So in our group chat, we had multiple people saying, Blazers sign him, Blazers sign him. What is just, I don't know. I think it was serious.
I'd rather sign EJ Liddell, actually.
Yeah, I mean, what is Nas gonna turn into? He's 5 years into his career. Next year would be his 6th season. He's not exactly early on in his career anymore. He would turn 25 next season. Like, he's kind of, I think, what he's going to be. And last year, he just did not look good when he played. He shot 30% from 3. Defensively, didn't do much. And he's just kind of a clunky player at times. It's just, I think he will end up on a roster and should end up on a roster, but it doesn't make sense for the Blazers. Like, what, he's going to be your 8th wing?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think it's important to note that Joe Cronin did sign Nas to that extension.
Yeah. Listen, it's still cheap enough that even if he's a fringe rotation player, like, it's fine. Like, Thibault got more overpaid than Nas did.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Because Thibault I view as a fringe rotation player. And he's making 10, 11 million. Luckily, it's not a 4-year deal. But yeah, it just sucks. It sucks it didn't pan out. I always liked Nas, and I was always a fan of his. And there was a time I believed in him. And just lesson to be learned, like, sometimes the hype can get too far ahead of a player. And with Nas, I think Nas is a good example of that. Like, there is a lot of hype around him, which, it's great to have optimism. Listen, we don't have enough optimism as Blazer fans. But that just hurts when he lets you down, right? And especially when it's due to injury. So hopefully he can stick in the league and, like, get healthy and find a way to carve out a role. He just has a lot of work to do. And I don't know if it's due to injuries, but it just doesn't seem like he's really improved the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, for sure. Seems like a type that maybe, I don't know if his pride will allow him to do this, but if he went, like, overseas, he could carve out a nice long career.
Yeah. Definitely. Anyway, let's talk about our guy Donovan Clingan. So, was a beast on the boards in Summer League, a beast defensively in Summer League. We've talked about the offense, definitely a work in progress. But the question for today, brought to you by BetUS, is over/under rebounds per game, Eric. I'm going to do a chat poll as well and see... Well, actually, my chat is broken, so I guess I won't do a chat poll. Bummer. But chat, you can let me know in the live chat. Do you take the over or do you take the under? The line is set at 6.5 rebounds, Eric. Now, obviously, there's a couple things that go into this. Will he play enough? And also, how dominant of a rebounder will he be at the NBA level? So, Eric, what say you? Over or under 6.5 rebounds next year for Donovan Clingan?
This one's tough, man. I see the points on the bottom ticker. I've definitely taken the under on that. But, man, if Ayton's here all year, Robert Williams plays half the season, man, I don't know if he's getting 6.5 rebounds in 20 to 22 minutes a game max. So, I think it's super close, but I'm probably taking the under barely.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to calculate this is, like, per 36, how many rebounds do you think he's getting?
Probably like 12, 13.
Yeah, so if you do the math, let me pull up my calculator, right? Because it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game here. So 1.846. All right, so let's do... Sorry, I'm doing math. So if he gets 12 rebounds per 36, he'd have to play 19.5 minutes per game to get to 6.5.
And I think that's going to be like right around where he's at.
Yeah, like this is a tough line.
Somewhere in the 18 to 22.
Arrowmancer
says easy over.
So if he plays, basically what I was going to say before doing the math, and the math like confirms this for me, if he plays at least 20 minutes a game, I think he's over. I think he's over because I think he's going to be right around 12 rebounds per game. It's going to be interesting to see it. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. 12 rebounds per 36. I mean, he's just so big, right? Like, if any, maybe he gets bumped off too many rebounds and his hands aren't quite good enough, and it's less. But he's just so freaking big. Like, I think 12 is a pretty safe bet. 11 to 12 or so. So it's like if he plays at least 20 minutes a game, you smash that over. If you're confident that he's gonna find his way on the floor for like half a game, 24 minutes a game, like that is a very easy over to me. The tough thing is just when do they trade Ayton, and then how long does he play? Does Klingon play before maybe they shut down every notable player? You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, how hard are they going to tank this year? And then what if they trade Ayton? How many minutes does Klingon play after that? There's a lot that goes into something like this, which kind of makes it fun to think about. And by the way, this line is brought to you by BetUS. You can find it on BetUS.com. You can sign up for BetUS with the link in the description. It gives you a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000, so you can take advantage of that deal.
Is there like a minimum games thing with that, or is it just...
You know what? I am not sure. I think there might be if you bet the under, but it's like per game, so I don't really think for something like that it's a minimum games thing. So
one thing to note, so his freshman year at UConn, he only played 13 minutes a game. Now they had a good big in front of him. The bench. Yeah, so that was it. But this year, he was a starter. I mean, they still had a good backup big man, but he only played 22 and a half minutes per game in college. So stepping up to the NBA, I think he might need a little bit of a ramp up to play more than 20 minutes or so. So that might be a reason, at least this first season, that they bring him along a little slower and don't really try to push him too hard in terms of playing heavy minutes. And I think that's why like a guy like Ayton might stick around for at least one more year before they seriously look at moving him.
Yeah. Okay, I loaded the stream up on Google Chrome so I could ask chat this question. Over, under, 6.5 rebounds for Klingon. Vote the over, vote the under. I'm going under with you, Eric. If I had to pick, this is a tough one. I'm going under on the 6.5 rebounds. But I hope he plays at least 20 minutes a game. It's going to be a bummer if we tanked all last year just to end up getting the 7th pick, just to get a guy who's rookie season when we still suck and we're still trying to tank, and we only play him like 16 minutes a game. I get it because conditioning and he's a big and this and that. It just kind of sucks, you know?
Or he's too good to, like, he's not letting us tank because he's a winner. He wins at every level.
Yeah. Maybe, man. He'll find a way to win the over. Chat pretty divided, but almost 2/3 so far are going the over. Actually, 15 votes, 10 of them are for the over, Eric. So chat disagrees with us. So chat, put some money on this. Use the link in the description. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the show. I'll let that poll run for a little bit as we move on to our next subject, which is who is the Blazers' long-term power forward. So, Eric, you got a Rip City Project article. You're going to read off the names. Have you read this article yet?
I did read the article.
Tisk.
Yes.
I don't know this article, so I'm going to react to the candidates that they say, and then we can do a chat poll for which one should be the long-term power forward, and maybe we'll add a candidate because we can do 4 options, and they got 3 for us from Rip City Project. So, Eric, take it away.
All right. This article is by Reese Coons. It says 3 players the Blazers might replace Jeremy Grant with by the trade deadline. Blazers could look to get even younger and cheaper by trading Jeremy Grant. Goes on to say they should strongly consider trading him. He's the only player on the roster who is 30 years or older.
Can't have that.
Yep. Yeah, no one over 30. So it's kind of weird. So they have 3 names of players that should take over for him as the power forward. The first one, it's a Los Angeles Laker. Pretty obvious if we deal him to the Lakers that Rui Hachimura would be part of that deal. So they're saying Rui would just replace him in the lineup.
Yeah, not a long-term power forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this replacements long term or replacements for next year? Because I think it'd be fun to have a conversation like who the long term power forward is, but
yeah. It just says who the Blazers will replace Jeremy Grant with.
Got you. Okay. All right, so we got Rui, who's candidate number 2.
The second one, this is also kind of weird. This is a team that might be trying to get better sooner than later. And it's Keldon Johnson of the Spurs.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Even if it's for 1 year stopgap, hell no, bro. What are we talking about, man?
But Keldon Johnson got the Mike Barrett. He's lost 15 to 20 pounds, apparently, and is looking really awesome.
He's not a power forward, though. He's so undersized there.
I know.
Especially if he lost 15 to 20 pounds. He should have kept that weight if he was going to play power forward, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, since they added Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, they still lack the firepower to make a playoff run. Grant is an established player the Spurs could acquire.
I mean, I don't disagree with that necessarily. It's just I do not want Keldon Johnson.
Yeah.
No way. All right, who's the third option?
All right, the third option is the Atlanta Hawks' DeAndre Hunter.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, what are we doing?
That's why I had to bring this article.
So even, okay, honestly, all those, Rui's the only guy I'd be comfortable with starting next year, but Rui should not start next year. Here, I'm a little confused by this article. If Jeremy Grant gets traded, you know who the replacement for him at power forward is? It's Denny.
Yeah.
1,000% it's Denny. Because you're starting 3 guards.
Yeah.
Like you're going to start Keldon Johnson over one of Sharp, Scoot, or Ant? I don't think so. I definitely would not be starting DeAndre Hunter, injury-prone DeAndre Hunter over any of those guys, and definitely not Rui. And Rui's my favorite player out of the 3, but he's more of like a bench scorer piece. The question, so for the long-term topic, okay? I think the long-term power forward spot comes down to Denny Avdia or someone in next year's draft.
Yeah, or like a young player. Let's say, I brought this name up before, but let's say like the Pacers go into more win-now mode and are willing to trade Jarris Walker or someone like that.
I just don't see the Blazers being the team that trades for Jarris Walker there.
Yeah, I'm just saying, not necessarily him. I'm just saying, like, there are a couple examples.
Yeah, that is possible, but I think that's a small % chance. I think it's much more likely it's Denny versus somebody in next year's draft. And the question is, if you don't draft a power forward in next year's draft, like, what are you drafting and who are you replacing? Because you already got 3 guards, so... You know, where exactly are you going? Are you drafting VJ Edgecombe? How does that work, you know? Are you drafting... I do have a gut feeling like VJ Edgecombe is going to somehow be a Blazer, Eric.
We need talent, Tori.
Hey, he's talented.
Yeah.
Anybody in the top 10 is talented. So it's like, okay, is it a small forward? You're still going to have to make a decision probably about 2 of your 3 guards, unless you want to bring one of them off the bench permanently.
Yeah.
Because the Blazers are drafting a starter next year. You realize that, right? So if we're in the top 10, we're drafting a starter.
Yeah.
Like a maybe not somebody that starts immediately, but somebody that could start immediately and is the long-term starter. So when having this conversation, Grant obviously doesn't factor in. So I think Denny is a long-term starter. If he's not the long-term starting power forward, it's because they get like a Cooper Flag and Denny plays the 3.
Right.
Regardless, Denny, I think, is a long-term starting piece.
Yeah.
And I think they're either going to draft... I don't see them drafting a center, unless they don't think Kling can play more than 24 minutes, but then it's like, why'd you take him at 7? Okay. So, what's the alternative? you draft a 3 and then you start, Sharp and Scoot and gotta trade Ant or something? Or you start Ant in one of the two and then one of them's off the bench? Like, what are you doing there? Or you draft a guard, and then that's even more of a question, like, which guards do you start? Even if you start Sharp at the 3, if you get a VJ Edgecombe, right? Edgecombe, however you say his name, or a Dylan Harper. Do they start? Like, are they better than Scoot if Scoot struggles a little bit this year? Like, then what conversations are you having? So it's just fascinating to me. This team, this organization is going to have some really tough questions to answer, even if they trade Grant for no players back and draft picks, hypothetically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the tough part is it if it's a situation where the Blazers have all 3 guards play relatively well, Scoot looks like he's on his way to becoming the player, or somewhat of the player everyone thought he would be when we drafted him. Sharp looks good. Anthony still looks good. But, like, if you don't get the number 1 pick, if those guards are, like, higher rated than anyone else on your board, what do you do? That's tough, man.
Even if they are, it's like what's your window? At the end of the day, like, I hope in that scenario Ant would have more trade value next offseason. Because for as much, like, Ant's polarizing. There's people that love him, want to keep him. There's people that want to trade him. It's like, if Scoot and Sharp look good next year, even if Ant still looks really good, if you can have confidence in Scoot and Sharp, and you're going into next year's draft where, like, you can draft a 4 and play Denny at the 3, and whoever you drafted the 4. You can draft a 3 and play Denny at the 4. You could even draft, like, a wing and have Sharp and that wing be your wings and Scoot be your point guard, right? Like, you're drafting, I don't know, you would hope that you could get something for Ant, even if he looks good, if you are confident that Sharp and Scoot can be your future starting backcourt, because then you're just drafting the complement to Sharp, Scoot, and Denny at the 1 through 4 positions, is how I think that's the most likely end game here. But it's also saying it now is like, Ant's the one player you can have confidence in right now being a good NBA player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's just very tricky and very weird, man.
Cooper Flag is so perfect for everything we need.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I know he's perfect for any team, but, like, it'd literally be like the ideal person to put on this team, I think.
Like, I think they have to start Scoot at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, you invested too much in him and he works too hard, and I think will improve too much where they can't keep him on the bench. Even if, like, Ant's still a little better, you drafted Scoot 3rd overall to be your future starting point guard. And then if you don't ever give him the chance to be your future starting point guard, why did you draft him at 3 and run Dame out of town for him to be your future starting point guard? You know? Like, you have to see that through, in my opinion. You have to see that through. And if you didn't want to see that through, you should have traded the 3rd pick for the best offer on the table. But no, they loved Scoot, so they have to see it through. So long term, like, maybe they keep Sharp on the bench long term, but people, I feel like, would hate that. And that's kind of like, we talked a little bit about Sharp recently. Will he develop into a future star? Or will he... There's a chance that he might only become like a 6th man of the year candidate. That's a lower range outcome, in my opinion. Like, that's a little bit pessimistic, but I don't think that that's impossible. So are you comfortable just running that 3-guard rotation long term with Scoot and Ant as your starting guards and Sharp off the bench? The thing is, people would not stand for that because, oh, why are you going to bring the 6'5" athletic shooting guard off the bench and start a 6'3" Anthony Simons undersized shooting guard after we did it with Dame and CJ for so long, right? Like, people aren't going to go for that. And does the organization care about that? Just some of the questions facing it, man.
Yeah, one quick note about Scoot. Not that the organization doesn't believe in him, but I got the sense that they were more scared about trading him and him becoming a star than they were thinking, like, he's necessarily, like, for sure going to be that star, if that makes sense.
I just don't fully buy that.
Like they like him a lot. I'm just saying, like I think they were more worried about how good he would be and how that would look.
I think if they were worried about them looking bad more so than anything, then they may not have ran Dame out of town and they may have just traded the pick. I feel like that doesn't like it's you're scared of trading him and looking bad, so you run Dame out of town and draft Scoot when if you don't fully believe in him, you could look really bad for drafting Scoot too.
But Dame was gone no matter who we drafted if we kept the pick.
But that's the point. Is like either way, they were in a position where they could look bad. So I don't feel like they chose a third overall pick because they might look bad if they didn't. Because if Scoot's not good,
well,
he's a bust. You drafted a bust at 3. Good job. You draft another bust. Just add him. You know, you drafted some busts in your history. Just add them to the list. Like, this is not going to look good. This is going to look bad. So, compared to, like, trading the pick to try and go all in around Dame, even if Scoot ends up becoming a star, if you make that trade to try to go all in around Dame, you don't look as bad compared to the route they went and then Scoot not being good. So, I don't know. Like, logically, I can't wrap my head around that.
But we kept hearing, Scoot would go number 1 in any draft and all that stuff, and I don't think they could pass that up.
So I just don't buy that they cared more about outside narratives versus their own scouting.
Well, they had Scoot. I'm not saying they didn't like Scoot. They absolutely liked Scoot and thought he should have been the pick there.
Yeah. I mean, I think they drafted him because they like him. And they drafted him because they believed he could be the guy that they could replace Dame with. And sure, maybe there was some like, man, what if we traded him and he ends up being really good? Sure, maybe there was some thinking there. But I think ultimately he gave them the perfect pivot away. And it'll look just as bad as any alternative if they pivot away from Dame for Scoot and then never even give him the chance to start.
Well, what if he doesn't earn that start?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Because then it's going to be, man, you drafted this guy. A lot of people found him generational. And you couldn't even develop into somebody that you even wanted to try starting at the point guard spot? Is your player development that bad? That you drafted this guy who could never even become a starter?
Well, that's not necessarily on the Blazers if Scoot's just not.
I think it could absolutely be on the Blazers because player development is a thing.
Yeah, of course. But, like, part of that is, like, if Scoot just isn't good enough.
I mean, at the end of the day, who is starting on this team? Like, you're starting multiple guys a year that aren't good enough to start on most other teams.
Right.
So the conversation isn't necessarily, oh, he's not good enough to start. This team ain't good. This team ain't good. Yeah, this team ain't good. So if the team ain't good, like, at some point you give him the reins and just see what happens. Mm-hmm. And even if, like, oh, man, he didn't earn it, your team's a dumpster fire anyway, right? Like, your team's not good anyway. So you at least should see it out and just see what happens. And if he fails, that gives you the confirmation you need. Like, okay, this dude is not the future at this position. But I feel like at some point you got to find out what that looks like because you invested the third pick in him. And if you believe in your player development, if you believe in your scouting team, like, I just think at the end of the day, they at some point will start Scoot for sure. I feel very confident with that. How soon that is, I don't know, but I think they'll see this through because A, they have to, B, like, just logically it doesn't make sense not to.
Yeah.
So it's just obviously if that is indeed the case, how does that affect other players on the roster? It's just a jigsaw puzzle right now, and it's not close to being solved.
Yeah.
Gonna have to throw away some pieces. There's too many pieces in the jigsaw puzzle, Eric.
Yeah. I like what Taylor says. He kind of summed it up better than I was trying to explain it. Drafting a consensus BPA player at a top slot and him busting doesn't look as bad as trading a consensus BPA player and him becoming a star.
I don't agree.
Which I completely agree.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I think trading a consensus best player available when, like, if it's a package where you can get a player that's already a star and you're doing it to try and put a winner around Damian Lillard, who's sacrificed for years just to try and make it work in Portland. So Scoot becomes a star, like, he'd have to become a top 5 player ever, or not a top 5 player ever, a top 5 player in the league in order to really make that look bad if you're trading for a player that's worth trading the 3rd pick for. Like, we've seen much worse trades. We've seen a team that was a mess, that never had a chance of contending, trade many unprotected future firsts that became Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to put Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in Brooklyn, and they weren't even close to contending. They weren't even close to winning at all, right? So I think, like, would have no chance of being that bad.
But that's what Taylor's saying, though. The Nets gave up picks that ended up being
and that's 10
stars.
times. Yeah, 2 stars for no reason. If you trade Scoot, you're to try and put a team around Dame, that's the reason. Like, you have a legitimate reason.
That Darren Williams and
declining Darren Williams.
I'm just saying, like, they thought they had the type of team that Portland would have in that situation.
But having Darren Williams there is different than Portland and Dame. The Nets and Darren Williams is just different than Portland and Dame, this dude being here 10 years. And if Scoot becomes a star, you say, man, we had to do it for Dame. He gave so much to the city. Like, we needed to give him a chance. You can fall back on that.
But that we know that wasn't ever their plan.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying, though, is I don't think trading that 3rd pick and Scoot becoming a star just to try and put a competitive enough team around Dame makes him look as bad as running Dame out of town, drafting Scoot to be his replacement, and then not believing him in enough to ever give him a chance to start.
Okay, well, if you phrase it like that, I agree, but that doesn't necessarily... Like, they could still give him a chance to start and him not succeed, and then does that change your mind at all?
I mean, you got to give him the chance to
start. Like, if he starts the next 3 years.
So this conversation started, like, basically, you started this conversation. I forget exactly how you phrased it, but I don't know. What'd you say? They weren't like 100% sold, or how'd you phrase it?
I said they were more concerned. I said it had nothing to do with what they thought of Scoot. They absolutely thought Scoot was the guy they should pick or whatever. They didn't have concerns about Scoot. But part of the reason why they didn't trade the 3rd pick was because they were worried about what it would look like if Scoot was traded and he ended up being a star and the type of player everyone thought he was going to be, a number 1 type player in any draft. And that kind of led their mindset a little bit into not wanting to even explore really trading that pick because they were scared of what would happen if they did trade it.
I think that could have been like a small part of it, but not the main reason. I believe ultimately they wanted to go the young route, and they felt like Scoot was a really good excuse to fall back on to go the young route.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
still would have been interesting to see what they did if Scoot would have went too, like he should have.
Yeah. At the end of the day, he has to get a chance to start. He has to get a chance to start. Like, so long term, it's funny because the guard situation can affect the long term power forward situation. Because Denny can slide up from the 3 to the 4, Sharp can slide up from the 2 to the 3. So when you have players that can slide up or down positions, it's a little bit more fluid in terms of your roster building. because you can draft a 4 and go big and trade one of the guards and have Scoot, Sharp, Denny, and whoever the power forward is, hopefully Cooper Flag. Or you can draft, you know, like a Hugo Gonzalez, who you feel comfortable with at the 3, and you start Denny at the 4, and then you pick 2 of the 3 guards. Or maybe you have one come off the bench permanently. Anyway.
Well, the other part of that is they were also scared to go all in for Dame and not have that be good enough too, you know, and like spend what it took to do that, but still barely make the playoffs. So
you know me, I don't like this front office. It's just tough for me to like 100% accept that all their decision making is completely led by fear.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like, because Joe Cronin isn't the only person in that front office, and I just feel like there's probably too many, like, smart enough people in that front office to make all these decisions based out of fear. You know what I mean?
So, but we also know, like, the optics of stuff does really play into ownership and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but if anything, I feel like they know they can control the narrative. So why do they need to? What do they need to be scared of if they can control the narrative? I don't know.
They found out they can't because they lost 70% of their viewers, and
well, you can control the narrative all you want. If your team's that bad and nobody can watch them because they're on Root Sports, like, you're gonna lose your viewers no matter how well you control the narrative, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, what, they weren't afraid of that? Like, I just have a tough time coming around to believe, like, I believe it plays a part, but I just don't believe, like, they're led by fear. It's just tough for me to see that.
Okay, fair.
And maybe that's me being too optimistic. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, if you had to pick one of the two, between Denny or someone else at the long-term power forward, who would it be, Eric? And I'm going to ask chat this poll as well. Denny Avdia or someone else, chat. Answer in the poll. John Molas says, always said you're too optimistic, Tori. Or he said options. Maybe he meant optimistic. I mean, listen, I'm just so positive, chat. I'm just too positive to believe that.
Mr. So positive, he's negative, according to people.
I'm so positive, I go all the way the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I hope the answer to that question is Cooper Flag, but I am comfortable right now. I don't know if this can work long term, but I've said it many times. I want them to start the 3 guards and Denny at the 4. And I think Klingon, Denny's a good enough rebounder to play the 4, and I think Klingon can mask some of the problems with starting the 3 guards long term as well. So I'd like to just see how that looks. I'm willing to give that a chance. So that's what I want to see the most this season, is that 5 lineup.
Right now, I don't think there's a player in the top 10 that's a power forward other than Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
Ace Bailey's a small forward. You got Dylan Harper, Nolan Traore, VJ Edgecombe. Dylan Harper's a combo guard. Maybe big enough to play the 3, though. Like, honestly, I need to watch more of Dylan Harper, but I always like that archetype, Eric. Like, big enough to play the 3 and skilled enough to run some point. And, like, can hopefully shoot well enough. That would be interesting. Just like that well-rounded Swiss Army knife type of guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can have enough of those.
No more 3-guard lineups. But what does it matter this year? Like, we're not...
Yeah, you're... No more 3-guard lineups if we're trying to actually win. But this year we're A, trying to tank, B, trying to figure out what we have with our young talent, C, trying to develop that young talent. But the other guys you got, Hugo Gonzalez is a 3, Maluak is a center, Trey Johnson and Liam McNeely are both wings. Like, McNeely may be big enough to play the 4, but he's more of a 3. Igor Denham listed as 6'8" shooting guard. Drake Powell, 6'5" shooting guard. I'm just going off of Tankathon. 12 is Zikarsky, 7'3" center. 13 is Colin Murray Boyles, 6'7" power forward. So, like, top 12 guys, is the only power forward there is Cooper Flagg. So unless, like, Noah Sengwe, however you say his name, unless he, like, rises into the lottery and is our pick, which he's a 6'9" guy. Like, was that the guy I said is going to be your draft crush this year, Eric?
I don't know.
You remember that?
Yeah. You said it would be, but I haven't looked too much into him yet.
Yeah, he's French. No, I think it was somebody else. There's somebody else that just, like, statistically and size-wise reminded me a little bit of Salon, and is like, that's going to be the guy. I'm going to try and call your sleeper this year. And then you're going to hate him just because I tried to call it.
Yeah, because I care about that.
Because we all know your big board is fully dependent upon what I say.
Yeah, it's just a spite.
I told you to love Chomchie and Salon secretly. So, guys, all Eric's opinions, I tell him before we go live.
No, I just like those guys so much because you didn't really like them that much.
Well, you know, just I'll share our secret just with the people watching this. All Eric's opinions, you know, when we have the 5-minute intro screen, that's me telling Eric what to say, scripting his entire show, right? So,
some people think we do that. For the record, we do not do that. Please do not take that seriously.
Yeah, we don't. We definitely don't do that. Anyway. Somebody's going to go to Reddit. Places of press, script their shows. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, for years, you'd wanted me to be more bold with my draft stuff, so I went pretty bold.
You went very bold, though. Like, for me, it's like, I would have my opinions on players, but then, like, dial them back a little bit too much because I was worrying a little bit too much about consensus.
This year. You've said multiple times you wish he would have just put him top 5, right?
I know. He's going to be...
So that's how you, like, dialed it back too much, you know? Like,
I know. Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
Dude, like, when I first saw him, I was like, yeah, that's a player. Like, the first minute of film, just, like, the way he moved with his dribble and, like, some of the shots he made, it was just like, yep, I like this guy. Like, immediately. And just, there's certain guys. Anybody I have that feeling with, I'm just going to go off my first minute of watching highlights, Eric. Because some of my draft crushes that were, like, second-round picks, it was just, like, instantly loved them just because of the way they move with the ball, the way they handle the ball. Like, Austin Reeves was one of those guys, right? So, I don't know. This year, I'm going big. Cooper Flagg is not a top 5 prospect. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, jeez, man.
Eric, it's not that I care. People. It's not that I care about consensus. It's just like I start to feel like, man, maybe I'm a little too optimistic. Like, what do they struggle at? Because I'm, like, so much higher on them. So then I start, like, nitpicking a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm, like, thinking, like, I'm missing something if I have them higher.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so that.
I think, though, like, the biggest thing for us lately has been we've been pretty early on guys who are considered like late first, early second, and then they ended up being like lottery picks or really good players.
1000%. Like, I was early on Connect, man, when he was like a early second.
He ended up falling.
This year,
it's still weird that he fell to 17 or.
I know, it was crazy. There's just so many intriguing players. Like Dink Pate or Pate or however you say his name is projected 26 on Tankathon right now, Eric. Like, he's 6'8" guard with, like, some athleticism. So this year is going to be especially fun because I feel like you have so much talent that there's, like, going to be like 25 guys that you could realistically put in the top 10, and it's not crazy.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the draft this year. All right. Grant trade idea time, Eric.
Woohoo.
Let me find the article. How did I lose the...
Do you even know what team it is?
Nope. I just know it's better than the last one because it said Blazers get Hall for Jeremy Grant. Okay, blockbuster trade proposal brings Blazers Hall for Jeremy Grant. Okay.
And what is this from?
Sports Illustrated, but the Blazers Sports Illustrated page. So, the Cavs one was ridiculous. This one's from Matt Levine. Not to be confused with Zach Levine. Should Portland look into a deal like this, all right? So let's see what it is. Oh, God, I already see a sentence. The biggest issue with Grant isn't his play, but rather his hefty contract. Not quite. Let's see. Where's the trade here? Oh, they don't list it like normal. Okay. So it is the Lakers. Portland will receive D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Maxwell Lewis, and a 2029 first-round pick. That's a haul, Eric? That's not a haul. Russell, Vando, Maxwell Lewis, and a 2029 first? It's not a haul.
It's like the worst possible combination of players we can
I
get
know.
from them.
I agree. No way, man. Like,
I mean,
give me
Russell's
Rui instead of
expiring.
Russell, and like, still don't want to call it a haul, but I thought this was gonna be something fun. Nope.
At this point, are you, though, just screw it if we get one unprotected first, you're doing it?
Kinda, but like, I want Rui instead of D'Lo.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's not a good market for D'Lo, just like Anthony, but like...
Yeah. When somebody says a trade is a haul, that means it's like phenomenal for... You know what I mean? Like, this trade would be phenomenal for the Blazers. Like, even if I would do that trade, it doesn't mean it's phenomenal.
But this is the problem when they start off by saying that the contract is bad.
Yeah.
So they're, in their mind, getting a first-round pick for that bad of a contract as a haul, and probably is how they're justifying it.
Just looking at it, twisted, man. He's not Tobias Harris. Like, 4 years from now, when the cap is like $50 million higher than it was last year, he's going to be making as much as Tobias Harris was last year. He ain't no Tobias. Like, Tobias Harris has a bad contract. Jeremy Grant is better, and the contract's cheaper because the cap's going to go up.
And for the length of the contract, I mean, the max the contract or salary cap can jump is 10% moving forward. Pretty much everyone unanimously expects it to jump 10% every year with the new TV deal. I think it's pretty much a given fact by now. So
it's going to jump by like $15 million a year.
And that means that it'll stay in that 19 to 20% range his entire contract. So for like a third or fourth option on a team, if he's making 20%, that's not an overpay.
I mean, the cap's going to get up to like 185, 190, right? Because that like 140 right now? Right? So if it gets up to like 185... Let's just say 36 divided by 185. That's less than 20% of the cap. So that's not bad. That's not bad. For comparison's sake, cap's like 140 right now. I think it's like 141. 19% of the cap right now is $26 million. So when he's making $36 million, then it'll be like he's making $26 million now. I don't think it's that bad.
Well, the thing is, though, the only argument is that he's going to be, 34 by the end of it.
How many years does he have left on his contract?
4.
Oh, so he's 4 years. So this year, what was the cap set at this year?
I think it was like 140 and a half or something.
Yeah, so
That
141.
146.
So it'll go up 14 to 155.
Yeah.
And then it'll go up 15 and a half to 170. And they'll go up 17 to 187. Right. And that will be his last year of his deal, correct? The year it's 187? Yeah, the last year of his deal. So 36 divided by 187.5 is, yeah, 19%. So it's not crazy. Not bad. Tobias Harris's cap percentage this year, let's do 36 divided by, I don't know, roughly 140, 26%. I think it was a little less than 140 the cap was, so it
like
was even more.
135 or something. Yeah.
Yes, I think it was like, yeah, 130. 36 divided by 135 is like almost 27%. So it's basically much more expensive. 8 percentage points, if you want to put it that way, more expensive compared to the cap in the final year of Harris's deal to the final year of Grant's deal.
I think wasn't he making like 39 this year? I think it was even worse.
It might have been 39, man. Which would be like almost 29%. So, yeah, like that contract is much worse to me than Grant's is. Like, Tobias Harris's contract is a bad contract. Grant's is an okay contract. So, by the way, this poll, 46 votes, long-term power forward, 50-50 between Avdia and someone else, Eric.
Yeah. People just hopeful for flying there.
Yep. Yep. We'll take a couple questions, but first, once again, shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this edition of Blazers Uprise Live. You can get in on the action for Donovan Clingan over under 6.5 rebounds by using my link in the description box below to sign up, which will give you a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. That's a great deal. NFL season starting soon, so you can sign up just in time for that and get in on futures like these for the NBA with Donovan Clingan. We talked about the Blazers being plus 4,000 to win their NBA Cup pool, which is just insane. So make sure you take advantage of that deal. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah, he made 39,270,000. I mean,
if you use BetUS, maybe you can make Tobias Harris money. Yeah, so 39.5 out of, what was the salary cap? This stream is just me doing math, man. Yeah, it's like 29% of the cap. It's crazy. It's crazy. Grant will be like 19% of the cap.
Wes Davidson says, I haven't seen a trade yet where Portland gets fair value for Grant.
Even the ones we came up with, where they're getting 2 first? And Rui? Like, that is more than fair value.
I feel like Grant won't be I don't think he's like... His game's going to get drastically worse over the next few years. Like, yeah. His flaws will be his flaws, and the things he's good at, I don't think are necessarily things that are going to just deteriorate really quickly.
Yep. Elizabeth Allen, that's not the conversation. We're talking about Harris last year versus Grant's last year. What was I going to say? Oh, so question for you, Eric. You said about a month ago, I believe it was, maybe like 3 weeks ago, that if you had to guess, which is just a guess, like who knows, but if you had to guess, it's more likely the Blazers make a deal than not before the season starts, like make a trade than not. At this point, with it being August 22nd, do you still believe that, or have you changed your mind?
I mean, it's really tough with the Blazers to just ever pick them to do a trade.
Yeah.
But I still think when it comes down to it, they will value having just a little bit more flexibility with their cap situation by dealing one of Robert Williams or Matisse Thybulle at the very least if they can't get a Grant or um, Grant or Anthony trade done before training camp.
I just
So
don't think that trade will materialize before the start of the season for Thibault
yeah,
or Rob Will.
it might not. I mean, of course, it that's more likely that it won't. But I still think you asked my opinion. I still think they find a way to move one player, whether it's a small, one of the smaller veterans, or a big trade. I still think one thing happens before the season.
Before opening night? Or before
Yeah.
training camp?
Uh, I think, yeah, right around, but I think by training camp. So, what do we have, like a month?
Yeah, yeah. Like October 3rd or something like that. Somewhere around there.
5 weeks, basically.
20 on it.
I don't want to bet. I don't feel comfortable enough to bet. Like
Oh, man.
no, I mean, this isn't something that's like,
We can do $20 sponsored by BetUS.
you asked my opinion on it. I'm not. I think they might make a move, but I also said if I'm betting, like I'm always going to bet on the Blazers not doing anything because that's what they're best at.
Oh, man. Yeah. You
Sorry.
didn't say that. Bummer. Well,
Sorry, man.
guess we just got to bet with BetUS. I know Tori, you of course was going to say go Mariners. I ain't saying go Mariners. Hell no. Well, go Mariners today. They fired their coach. Their manager. So they did something to change something. Please help us. You know, as Ty France goes to Cincinnati and starts hitting again. We get Jesse Winker Eric from Cincinnati, and he's like the worst hitter. And now this year he's like fine again. Why do you guys gotta bring up the Mariners, man? Why do you do this to me?
France had a couple homers, but I don't think he's hitting for the
He's
Reds.
batting like 280. That's like 30 percentage points better than our best batting average.
For the Reds? Are you sure?
Yeah, like I keep seeing Mariners accounts tweeting like he's hitting 278 with homers. I'm like, of course he is, man.
I didn't think it was that good.
No, I'll check. Let's see.
It
Yeah,
might
it's
be-
not that good to you, but to us that would have been amazing.
I'm just saying it might improve later, but I was seeing that like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what the heck? And then I checked, and I was like, oh, it's not as good as
Okay, he's hitting 246. But his OPS is almost 100 points higher.
246 is what, second best on the Mariners?
Actually, his OPS is 100 points higher though.
Nice.
Yeah. He had 8 home runs in 88 games for us all year. And for the Reds in 19 games, he's already hit 3. I guess that's kind of the same rate. I don't know. Players just leave and they get better, man. We ruin players. I don't know how or why. We just ruin hitters. I'm a miserable Mariners fan.
I mean, Rosarino wasn't hitting that well. I mean, he
started terribly and then was.
He was hitting better when they traded for him, but his overall numbers weren't good this year. And then Justin
he hasn't even been the problem. Like his OPS is like identical. It's 712 to 714. 712 with the Rays, 714. Like that's like shooting percentage for baseball, by the way, if you guys don't know.
They need to get Julio some protection before he ruins his career. Like he has no protection in the lineup.
I mean, they also need to get a better hitting coach because it took them half a season to fix his swing.
Yeah, but haven't they fired their hitting coach multiple times?
Yeah, it doesn't mean they hired the right one. In return, we fired Stotts and hired Chauncey.
Somehow I learned this year that they had an offensive coordinator or something.
Dude, they're trying everything,
They fired
man.
him, too.
They're trying everything. I think the
Hey,
batter's eye is at an angle too. Like we gotta fix
Yeah.
that. I mean, I don't know. We just find ways, man. We bring in a Mitch Garver, and he turns to a single A hitter. He's hitting 165, bro.
I was gonna say 165 or something like that.
Yeah, he hit 270 last year. That's what happens. We bring in a guy like him, and he
Oh wait, you knew that the second they signed him.
Polanco though too. Like, why did Polanco's been good the past like month or so, but he was freaking awful for half the season. Like he was horrific. Well, then last month, oh yeah, I remember how to play baseball. Okay. So, we suck. Portland needs a baseball team. MLB to PDX. Please save me from the Mariners. Russell Wilson. Mike Barrett. I wasn't looking at chat, and I just came back to if Thibault shoots 40% from 3 and gets 30% usage, he can basically be Anthony Edwards. Anyway, we've reached the drunk portion of the night, so
That's a crazy comment, even for JD, man.
goated comment. Janie's funny. Janie, how long have you watched us? Because I don't remember you being in our chat like last season, and if you were, I apologize. Are you a new one? Are you a good new addition to the Uprise cult? If so, welcome. Still trying to get to 11K, man. We're just hovering right there. But it's August. We don't need a superstar with Ant and Denny. We have 2 primary ball handlers, and Grant is essentially our shooting guard on offense. Thibault is perfect for our needs. I disagree.
You have permission to rub it in our faces if that's because you said earlier that the Blazers are going to be a top 4 seed.
Put 20 on it. Gray's not around anymore, so I gotta find someone else. Where'd Gray go, man? I miss Gray. Gray's goated. Listen, Desmond. On BetUS, you can get, let me look, for the Blazers to make the playoffs, okay? I'll find the odds. Cuz they'll be in your favor. They will be in your favor. We go to Sportsbook, we go to, let's see. Where was it at? I need to find it. My computer's like lagging for some reason. Okay, so yeah, if you click on basketball, you can scroll down and go to where it says Portland Trail Blazers to make the playoffs on BetUS. Yes is plus 2,000. That's 20-1 odds. So if you bet $100, you win 2,000. And if you use my link, you also get a promotion bonus. So if you're that confident, put your money where your mouth is and use that link in the description. Hashtag ad. Anyway. And Australia's paying 33-1. I mean, if you believe the Blazers are going to make the playoffs, like, if you're that confident that they're going to be a top 4 seed, I think it's just a play-in counts. So I think it's just they got to finish the top 10. 20-1? Thibault can get us there. Umar, that charity better be our stream.
Smash that 22.5 over as well.
Yeah.
Win total.
Yeah, smash that win total, because you think they're going to win 2.5 times as much, apparently. Anyway, Eric, any final words?
Thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate you all. Thibault is perfect for our needs, don't you know? Says Taylor. Yeah, it's been proven fact the last year and a half he's been on the team, right?
Yep. And
perfect.
our needs is Cooper Flag. So
Yeah.
I agree, actually.
Yeah.
I agree.
But thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate you all. Hope to see you all back on the show on Monday.
Yeah, looking forward to that show on Monday, Shop at US. We're almost to September, and then we're almost to basketball. We will have a fantasy draft stream on September 1st on our second channel if you guys are into that. I'm excited for football, I'm excited for basketball, and I'm excited for baseball to be done.
And we've made it to football season.
Yeah. Somehow, some way. Let's go. Anyway, we're out of here. Have a good rest of your night, chat. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday, unless the Blazers do something. Maybe they will. Probably not, but maybe they will. Anyway.
Then I should have bet you $20.
Shut up, man. Shut up. When they trade Jeremy Grant this weekend, you're going to be kicking yourself.
Yeah. Dang.
Anyway. We'll catch you guys next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!